Hi, everybody. The UK's international stature in the fields of art, architecture, design, civic urbanism, investing in a notion that the most beautiful buildings are our public buildings and our social infrastructure is for all, providing access to education to drive creativity and innovation, to find solutions for all, and embracing the talent of all. This is a legacy we should be proud of in the UK, and it happened in the post-war period. We need an injection of creativity and innovation again now, and I'm laying down a challenge to all industries that shape our fast-expanding cities and any incoming government. As we consider how we reach net zero, as we look around us, we are at a real point of change. The realisation of the need for rapid and effective action, for renewed national commitments to carbon reductions, a raised social consciousness, an economic imperative for sustainable, safe and inclusive public infrastructure, and an awareness that both the physical and the social are interrelated. Creativity and innovation and inclusive practices in the built environment and our transport systems can help build a world where we deliver the new urban agenda. This is encapsulated in the interrelated and intersectional issues of climate change, inequality and social injustice, public health, and the changing world of work. We need new skills that address urbanism and city building with a different perspective and need to invest in new ways of working. So what are the gaps, the missing bits of urban planning, and how do we fill those gaps to think holistically about our transition to net zero and a more equitable city? And what are the new processes needed to set an inclusive city brief? Sadly, the way that we've been designing and building cities in a period of rapid and accelerated urban change has excluded much of society's talent, and with it, our collective civic pride. We have a deeply unequal society, and through exclusionary practices in urbanism, in part, I would argue, because the industry is nowhere near inclusive or representative of society, the subject matter of an inclusive city has not been widely debated, and expertise in the profession is actually only one reading of expertise. There are many other areas that developers, investors, engineers, architects, and project managers don't necessarily know about. We get a narrow and limited picture. People make money out of development, but how do we also get the livable cities that address social and environmental need? We have myriad other social crises on top of the climate and biodiversity crisis, and the built environment in physical, material form is part of the reason why. We've created a world that is unaffordable, has an epidemic of urban loneliness, with record levels of distrust of both the public and the private sector, and exclusion for the very talent that we urgently need. This impacts educational attainment, career prospects, housing options, wealth, and life expectancy. We have built inequality and bias into the built environment. Basically, what we are building and what we need is getting further apart. You know the statistics. In the UK, 45% of people report experiencing loneliness. Over 50% of black children are growing up in poverty. Only rich households in England, in the top 10% of income bracket, can afford an average home with less than 5 years of income. For the low-income families, it's 19 years. Over 20% of the UK's adult population has a disability, but we've built a city for a working-age, able-bodied population. Life expectancy is a massive 18 to 19 years differential, depending if you live in the least or the most deprived areas. You all know this. We don't need urban developments as island sites in glass and steel where we ignore or exclude others. And if we jump to a technocratic, top-down approach to urban change, we can carry an extraordinarily high risk of building in bias and discrimination. Apologies, my slides aren't moving. So I'll try that once more. Okay. If a new buzzword, social value in our industry, or ESG in others, is via a frictionless spreadsheet, we will continue to ignore the two-way exchange of real issues, lived experiences, and holistic, equitable ideas and solutions. Or if the ubiquitous term placemaking can't produce meaning or recognize that urban neighborhoods, communities, and urban change are more complex and interesting than a branding exercise, we'll continue to miss the existing material, spatial, social, cultural, economic opportunities of the actual place. In our industry, in recent years, a more ambitious approach is being formed in place leadership to include multiple perspectives and the realities of a place, a radical rethinking of the city. Over the past 10 years, Publica has researched a series of gaps in urban planning and strategic design. Thank you. Issues that have been hiding in plain sight, and we've been testing these new ways of researching and collaborating and setting policy for civic leaders. Our work and some of these multiple gaps have been captured in a suite of policies that we've contributed to for research and advocacy for the Good Growth by Design programme at the Greater London Authority. This whole systems approach to the tools for urban change that's been adopted and tested in London. Can a new government scale up this work quickly and in collaboration with key cities? So what do we mean by inclusive strategic design? To set the right brief for a development or a piece of infrastructure or regeneration project, multiple perspectives should inform it with a clear, communicable evidence base. We've developed a research-led approach in Publica to urban integration that analyses the patterns of use of parts of the city to ensure that the development sites and future land uses enhance and complement existing character and meet social and cultural and economic need. Our research objectives, to respect the civic identity and the complexities of an urban neighbourhood, have found a significant response from local authorities keen to address wider regeneration needs, from local communities and users, and importantly, from the market. We begin by accepting and embracing the messiness and by turning towards communities. We believe the answer is already in the place. Its history, its residents, the people who work in it, visit it, pass through it. What is there materially, socially, environmentally, and economically? By surveying before planning and by making this participative, you can set principles that all users and investors and decision makers can recognise, understand, and collaborate on. With fieldwork, it's also important to gather and analyse data, demographic profiles, socioeconomic activities, employment densities, collaborating with economists and social scientists. Understanding land use and the comings and goings from buildings at different times of the day and night, weeks, seasons, and seeing how the city and its infrastructures actually work and what this means for the places in between buildings that we all share. And we put all of this complex evidence together to share something that's made by many in the public domain, making it visual, accessible, and humane. This results in principle-led and intelligent urban change. We've found that with this collaborative and participative process, amazing things can happen in a really ambitious way. Whether this is rethinking economic and cultural brief for regenerating the Leeds-Liverpool Canal for Lancashire County Council, or setting the vision and the governance structure and strategic brief for the removal of Inner London's most complicated one-way traffic gyratory, which is now an award-winning new civic space by LDA, or Publica's 10-year project to radically restore and redesign London's first Georgian Square, Hanover Square in the West End, right by that Bond Street station, removing traffic from the west side, improving a garden oasis, rebalancing it for pedestrians, cyclist vehicles, and creating an expansive setting for the new Elizabeth Line station with fully integrated civic amenity and security elements. The space between buildings can work harder. We can address the green infrastructure and civic amenity that makes cities work, and where people actually meet and travel through and find collective and inclusive civic identity. And we don't have to spend inordinate amounts of money unpicking outdated infrastructures to make a Liverpool city. Use what we have, include more people, and so that we build what actually works for the many, not the few. And with this methodology, we can understand the deficiencies of a place as well as the opportunities, gathering the intelligence of that place and communicating it as a conversation in public, bringing international best practice and local intelligence together, writing policy and changing the industry. This methodology has all been tried, tested, and delivered. So I'm going to give you 2 examples. Over the last 6 years, we've been researching and developing international best practice about cities at night, since the Mayor of London's Nighttime Commission in 2017, and it's clear we've been designing for half of the time. What about connected places at night? How does the city operate at night, and why is there so little policy and practice about the nighttime? People work, socialise, learn, exercise, run errands, commute, and care for us at night, but inequalities are stark. We can see that the lack of affordable infrastructure or healthy food or safety being played out in our towns and cities across the country. And we're not talking about a few night workers. In London, 1.3 million people regularly work between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m., representing a quarter of our workforce. So for Amy Lammy, the London's Night Czar, we've developed a suite of best practice guidance for local authorities to support neighbourhoods as a step-by-step guide to develop nighttime strategies. It suggests ways of supporting nighttime businesses and workers, piloting events after dark, improving the experience of using the public realm at night, and developing places that promote sociability between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. to support more inclusive cities. We draw on international best practice, we make our research available to encourage other cities to adopt a holistic view of the nighttime, extending beyond the ideas of bars, pubs and clubs, and we draw attention to poor working conditions or public transport accessibility after dark and the importance of nighttime spaces to support community cohesion. The diversity of activities and the range of people who have a stake in our cities at night was explored at the inaugural London at Night conference, where we brought together people who are running community centres or nightclubs, running clubs, charities, newspapers, businesses, and the councils to discuss a multitude of things that happen in our cities at night. It's important to hear this expertise and build visions of our cities at night that embrace diversity and complexity and go beyond the point of managing licensed premises. Looking at things through a night lens, although allows us to find opportunities to use spaces for a longer period of time or activate places that would otherwise be vacant or empty, making our spaces and buildings work harder. This can support health and well-being and promote entrepreneurship. In Sweden, researchers found that if we light public playgrounds and parks, children play for longer and have more active lives. In London, when a nightclub opened 5 hours early to host a Christmas craft market, it brought 1,800 extra people through the door. It's a large nighttime anchor supporting 100 independent traders. So we listen to night workers. We've created and trained a nighttime borough champions network in London, and we ensure that every local authority has a cabinet member with a nighttime in their portfolio role. We bring London's political leaders to the high street, to town centres, to venues and to businesses at night. And we deliver neighbourhood-wide lighting strategies with strategies for ground floor occupiers to better align lighting and land use to make streets, landmarks, views, public spaces more legible, animated and better managed. We can draw attention to the city's architecture, the street furniture of the public realm. We can make use of quieter streets and spaces to encourage play at night. Guidance for the built environment sector helps it to think night through a night lens. Too many new developments actively design out nighttime uses. So at Publica, we ensure that we map and draw our neighbourhoods at night and develop strategies that actively and consciously plan for nighttime uses. We do this in all our master planning work. Another major and urgent gap in urban planning is how the city works or doesn't work for women, girls and gender diverse people. Led by Publica's Director of Research and our community interest company, Dr. Ellie Cosgrave, we have set out the Mayor of London's guidance and then we've tested it. We were asked to test it for a year on 10 Transport for London GLA and LLDC projects, all at different stages of design, planning and construction. This body of work was guided by my fellow mayoral design advocates led by Manojeva JC and Daisy Froud. We provide policy guidance, resources, toolkits, training and advocacy work to advance the public discourse and professional practice around inclusive cities. Why is it important? In the UK, nearly 50% of women report feeling unsafe when they walk alone after dark, rising to 80% in open spaces. We want to create cities where women, girls, and gender diverse people feel safe and can participate freely and fully in urban life. We've heard how this curtails the way that people live and move, limiting access to active travel and sustainable travel, and participation in activities that promote individual and collective social and economic well-being. If we start to plan and design our cities that actively address gender inequality, we make our cities better for everybody. So, we've been training young women to be the client. We've been asking girls to inform project managers and landscape architects how to consider their needs when they design and they produce the design and management for a new amenity. And in Greater Manchester, with Home Office funding, we've been working together as a movement for all under the banner GM Moving. Inspired by Eve Holt of Manchester City Council and Greater Manchester Moving, we believe in a whole systems approach to building social networks, collaboration between organisations and institutions, demonstrated in built form, set as policy, and shared as collective knowledge and experience. This is a cultural shift. One of our shared key commitments, as set out in our GM Moving in Action, is to work together to create healthy, active places and spaces where everyone feels they belong. We've learned that an effective way to do this is to create a clear invitation to communities and cross-sector organisations to work alongside each other at a local level, to do what they can individually and collectively, where they are with what they have, drawing on their insights, relationships, resources. We describe this as a whole system, strength-based, place-based approach. We're developing and promoting training, guidance, podcasts, blogs to galvanise our sector and our communities to get expertise into the right hands and to deliver real projects at scale on the ground. So, my challenge to British cities, our industry and the next government is look at the work that has been tested, the policies that have been written and the projects that have been delivered to demonstrate inclusivity. In Manchester and in London, we've shown through creativity and participative processes and practices that we can change our industry and we can deliver for our neighbourhoods. Place leadership is about demanding the right development brief with the right evidence and research that has been made by many. This provides the confidence that investors and planning authorities need. The right holistic brief is one that's sensitised to spatial, environmental, social solutions through collaboration and investing in new skills. All of this is achievable. We can scale it up really fast. It's really interesting and it's really fun. A good growth by design for the nation that believes in the strengths of our communities, that's developed for all, with all, is a legacy that we would be proud of. Thank you.